So a toxic relationship. Toxic relationships are expectations that are unrealistic, unhealthy, unspoken, controlling, or unfair beliefs placed on ourselves or unfair beliefs placed on others to create disappointment, resentment, pressure, emotional disconnection, or conflict in relationships. That's a lot. So I want you guys to think about it. Are you recently or have you recently experienced an expectation that is considered toxic for you? I want you to think about it. You guys know that you can always have your journal, you can jot something down. Has there been an unrealistic expectation in friendship and romantic relationships? An expectation that you felt you were, that it put you in a box, an unfair belief that really caused you some disappointment, resentment, pressure, or emotional disconnection, or just maybe it just caused a conflict in the relationship.
I
So
have
I want
two.
you to go ahead, Miss Shonda.
I have two. One is work related, and then
Okay.
one is home.
Okay.
So work related is because we don't have sufficient help at work.
Okay.
It's an unfair expectations that everything is loaded upon me
Okay.
because other people are not doing. I don't want to even say above and beyond, just not even pulling their own weight with the
No.
work that they're given. And because I'm known as always doing above and beyond, now it's becoming a very stressful, and it's becoming the expectations that they're putting on me, that give it to Shonda, give it to Shonda, give it to Shonda, it'll all get done. It's
Mm-hmm.
becoming very toxic and
Mm-hmm.
unrealistic because now I have so much on my plate that I'm starting to have mental breakdowns, and I never have mental breakdowns. So it's just like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's becoming very toxic, and I don't even know what to do about it right now at this point because
Mm-hmm.
it's just become the norm. So that's my toxic for work, and then my toxic from home
Mm-hmm.
is the expectations that I am always going to be there to like pick up my grandchild son from school. It doesn't. I'm not asking anymore. It's just become a. I'm gonna go do what I want to do, even if I'm off or whatever. I'm gonna go run around in the streets because I know she's going. So it's become like an expectation that I'm always supposed to just drop what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm working to go, pick up
Mm-hmm.
my grandson from school, and our expectation of doing certain stuff in the house,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether, I'm the one that contributes to it. It's just the expectations now are becoming toxic because now I feel like I can't say anything because if I say something, then there's attitude about it.
Okay, so pause. I'm gonna have you pause there. So I do want you to look at these words on the screen if you can see them. So are they toxic because they're unrealistic? Because they're unhealthy for you? Because they're unspoken? Because it puts you in this box or you feel controlled? And then what is the impact of that expectation? Is it creating disappointment, resentment? Because right here you're being given the words. Hey, I'm disappointed. I'm starting to feel resentful.
Mm.
I am starting to feel pressured. I am experiencing an emotional disconnection in our relationship because of this expectation. Or, this is causing conflict for me, right? But it's hard sometimes to say those words. You have to start rehearsing the conversation, right? Because they won't know. How will they know, right? And so, unrealistic, unhealthy, unspoken, controlling, or an unfair belief that, hey, maybe there's a belief that because you're sitting at home, you have nothing else to do, grandma. Watch the kids. I'm out. And you got to crush that. You got to crush that thought. You might be sitting at home, but if you just worked a 60-hour week or
Right,
80-hour week, like I'm sitting at home because my brain is fried. And
right.
I'm not watching my grandchild, much as I love them. I'm not watching them because I need to mentally decompress. So
Right.
these are just some things. So I want you guys to think about if you've experienced recently any toxic expectations and like what they are in the realm and what they are and why they're unhealthy and what is the cause and what is the effect. So it's toxic because it's either unrealistic, unhealthy, unspoken, controlling, or unfair. And the effect is, man, that it's having on you. I'm disappointed, or I'm starting to be resentful, or I'm feeling pressured, or I have this emotional disconnection and conflict. I want to warm us up, all right, with this one. All right, I'm gonna shout out Miss Charm for this one. This scenario. You want to explain this one, Miss Charm, if you're able to? Just how you kind of would hear this conversation, this scenario happen quite often.
Sure. You just wanted me to read it out loud?
Sure, you can read it out loud, and if you have context, you can.
Okay, I'll read it and then give context. So, it says Layla has honored God by serving in her church for 11 years. She's becoming frustrated waiting for her Boaz, meaning her ideal man. And she does not plan to leave her church. So, context, something that I personally have been told while like being single in the church is that your Boaz will come as long as you're serving, as long as you're just doing what God has called you to do, and as long as you're just walking in your purpose alongside like serving in church, your Boaz will come. And me and my friends in church have, there are definitely people in the church that have met their husband that way. But for a lot of my friends, that has not happened for them, where they've been serving in church for 5, 10, sometimes 20 years, and their Boaz has not come. And a lot of my friends kind of feel frustrated, praying for their Boaz, and they're not, obviously serving just for that. But obviously, it would be nice to be able to serve and have her, have a Boaz come alongside you. So it can kind of be that frustration. But something that was definitely told during my single season in church is that, just continue just to serve, and your Boaz will see you and he'll find you and he'll come get you. And for a lot of the women that I'm friends with, that did not happen for a lot of us. So it definitely can feel very discouraging. So that's kind of where I got the scenario from.
All right, so y'all, let's talk. What is this, a healthy expectation, an unhealthy expectation, or in the blue area, say I got questions. So y'all let me know. Is this an unhealthy, is this a healthy expectation, a toxic expectation of this Layla, is Miss Layla? Or do you have a question you want to throw out there?
This is Teresa. I want to add, yes, I've been here. I'm still here 20 years later. I'm still
Okay.
waiting for Boaz, right?
Uh-huh.
There are times, yes, I got disappointed, God, at those around me, and times like, oh, I need to just step away, go to another church. But I don't want to church hop, right? I don't
Uh-huh.
want to do that. I'm founded where I'm grounded where I am. So, it's like that roller coaster ride. I'm feeling disappointed, and then you accept, okay, this it's not my time yet. It's it'll happen when it happens. But then I have people who pray over me or come to me and say, I got a word, you're going to get a man. I'm like, I wish they wouldn't do that. The pressure,
Okay.
it's got to happen. And I
Okay.
don't want to feel that pressure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want the disappointment. And I appreciate people praying for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, I don't know.
All
It's,
right.
it's
We,
tough.
we're gonna add to that one, Miss Teresa. Don't worry, we got some thoughts. So I know one of your sisters out here has some thoughts about this. Go ahead, Shanoa, Mama. I see your hand.
Okay, question. Just because I think I maybe missed it. How is the serving in her church connected to the finding the husband? Like, is the expectation that because she's in church, she's gonna find the man?
Hmm.
Or the man is gonna find her at her church.
Right. Right.
Got it. And so you're asking, is that a healthy or an unhealthy expectation?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I can weigh in, right?
Yes, please do.
Okay, perfect. So I think it is both depending on who the expectation is of. So if the expectation is of the church and the people of the church, in finding this Boaz and her service to the Lord is transactional, that is absolute. Well, I don't want to say absolutely. That would be an unhealthy expectation possibly for that person.
Okay.
But if her expectation is in the Lord and is connected to the scriptures of the Lord, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will, give you the desires of your heart. So long as
Mm-hmm.
your heart is pure, then that's a healthy expectation because it's connected to the Lord.
Love it.
That's just my opinion.
Okay. Notice it says she does not want to leave her church. Anybody got questions about that?
Well, yeah.
So what if at her church, all of the men there are like 70 and older
Or married already.
or married already?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so then I have a question about that. What if like her positioning at the church is not for her to be finding a man? Like what if her positioning there is to just specifically be serving in ministry? Because like we the people are the church and we go to the building to
Mhm.
get educated and to serve those that are coming in.
Mhm.
And as she's doing her discipleship and outreach, that's where she will find the Lord, which is why I was confused at how it was the connection between serving in the church and then the waiting for Boaz.
Well, and a lot of, but this is what Miss Charm mentioned. This sometimes is almost you will hear women say that, hey, I'm waiting for my Boaz, I'm serving in my church, I'm doing these different things. And again, this is the story, this is Ruth's story, right? But something we have to understand, that when we read the Bible, we read the scriptures, we want to go in detail. Ruth, uh, she found Boaz, but it definitely was not in her hometown. She was a foreigner. Like, she left her hometown. Her husband died. She left her hometown with her mother-in-law, who she didn't even really have to honor that no more, because the mother-in-law wasn't, necessarily a mother-in-law anymore. And she left. And because of her loyalty and to her mother-in-law, she wind up serving her mother-in-law, out of loyalty to her mother-in-law and things like that. And yeah, the Lord, she was positioned to meet Boaz, who saw her and her kindness and her generosity. But she wasn't in the same place that she was. She noticed, she left to go to a foreign land that was unknown to her, to find her Boaz. And it wasn't for her to find her Boaz. Her Boaz found her. And this is how Ruth became a part of Jesus's lineage and his family line, because Boaz was related to Naomi's, I think Naomi's husband. So that's how she found herself in Jesus's line. Um, so yeah, and finding him, he was wealthy. So she went from bankruptcy to wealth, and also being married to a gentleman who really revered her. And
Oh,
so sometimes so my question would be for Miss Layla, why are you not willing to be open to move if that's what God has called you to do? What if you haven't found your Boaz because God's blessing and his storehouse has moved over here? How often does God tell us to leave that job, start dusting off your resume? Because guess what? I got a bigger blessing in the storehouse over you over here, but it's going to require you to get uncomfortable and move out of the familiar, move out of what's comfortable, what you were incubated in. I need you to go over here. And he's not going to necessarily tell you what's over there, but it requires you to have an act of faith and move before he will reveal.
Mhm.
And that's not everybody's story,
Mhm.
but it's something to consider. So that's a question I would ask Miss Layla, is that, hey, why are you not leaving? Why are you not open to it? Is it because God has asked you to stay? Is it because, and that's okay. If God has told her, no, peace, be still, stay here, be steadfast, do what you're supposed to do. Any other questions you guys will have with Layla besides that?
Well, if I could add to my story,
Mhm.
like you said, I was there 18, 2 more years with Radiant, so 20 years total at the same location, Hillsboro. And
Mhm.
this year, yeah, January, February, I started going to the Brandon location
Okay.
because it's a closer connection. My neighbors go there.
Hmm.
Hillsboro is always going to be in my heart, right?
Yeah.
Home, right? But like you said, I didn't feel like God was trying to keep me there now. Before,
Hmm.
yeah, I felt that was where He wanted me for a purpose. And
Hmm.
I feel like that purpose has been fulfilled,
Hmm.
whole radiant transition and being a part of that. Um, but now it's time. He's like, okay, you can move. And
Okay.
now what's going to happen? I don't know. But I'm open to it, right? It was hard. It was hard for
Hmm.
me to make that decision. It was sad in my heart, heartbroken in ways, but at the same time, I'm looking at, okay, there's a new opportunity to meet new people, be
Hmm.
part of a group that's closer to home, and I
Hmm.
can be in what do you call it, the small groups with people that actually live next to me. So I think it's going to be good overall.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, sometimes, again, it goes back to what is God calling you to do, and is that the loudest voice in your ear? And Ruth's story Ruth's story, it required her to be open to going somewhere that was different from what she knew. And that's where her blessing was. It doesn't mean that's everybody's story, but that was definitely her story. And sometimes we overlook that piece of her story. Like, oh, I'm waiting for my Boaz. But if God tell you to move, then move. Now, if he tells you to stay, stay. But these are some of the things we have to ask. And she was out there in the field, hot, sweaty, this and that and whatever, right? How many of us have a sister that we know that really wants to be and maybe wants to have friendships and to meet people, but they don't necessarily present themselves in that energy to like draw what it is that they actually want, right? So look at the picture here. What energy are you displaying to others? This is the same woman, different disposition. So sometimes we have to ask ourselves, like, man, we have to be in full alignment with our purpose. So if Layla was at that church and it had a purpose, then God is going to keep her there to fulfill that purpose, right? We have to ask God about our positioning, our posture, our process, and our power. When we think about expectations, our expectations for us and other people, man, what is the purpose of this relationship, right? What is my positioning here? Making sure you remember your positioning, remember God's purpose for you, period. Like, your relationship shouldn't adjust, your purpose shouldn't adjust based on somebody's role in your life. Consult God about your purpose, about your positioning, about the posture and how you carry yourself, your process, and know the power that you're supposed to operate in. So over here, for some of us, imagine if this was Layla. Is Layla giving off the energy that she ready to for her Boaz?
No.
Not really. What about over here? I don't know. What is this communicating?
You still kind of look closed off to me.
A
Yep,
little
she
close.
still ain't ready. She look bad.
Yep. A little closed off. Yeah. And so sometimes I remember somebody told me that, like, you should probably smile more.
There you go.
When I was going through some stressful phases of life, I realized, wow, I guess I'm not smiling because people keep telling me I need to smile. The energy I was giving off was probably not so friendly. And the Bible says we have to show ourselves friendly, if we want friends. So yeah, so we have to ask ourselves, are we in alignment with our purpose, our positioning, our posture, our process, and our power? Mhm. All right. So as far as toxic expectations goes, and I definitely want to just give us a little biblical reference, because Jesus experienced the same thing with toxic expectations. There was a moment in Jesus's during his ministry years at 33, when he started in ministry officially, where he was pretty much teaching to the disciples in someone's home, and someone came to him and said, hey Jesus, your mama and your siblings outside. And I don't know if you guys remember like what he said, but pretty much he replied like, okay, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And he says, and then he looked at those seated in the circle around him and said, here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God, that is my brother and my sister and my mother. Is it a toxic expectation for your family to expect you to drop what you're doing to accommodate them, their timing, their request, all of that? Here we see it right here in the Bible with Jesus, right? And it doesn't mean that they expected him to drop what he was doing, but the fact that, somebody came in and announced them, he wasn't going to stop doing the will of God just because his biological mother and siblings were outside. So has anyone ever heard that is blood thicker than water kind of statement?
Mm-hmm.
Where family members will say, hey, blood thicker than water. Like, you're supposed to be more loyal to me than that job, more loyal to me than your friends, more loyal to me. I trump and come above all of these people in your life. I've been knowing you longer. Really? This is what we're going to do? Those are things that are not healthy. And Jesus kind of even endured that. So we want to beware and be aware of unreasonable family expectations, expectations from friends, co-workers, whomever. There are 5 things that we want to make sure that we're watching for that can be very toxic in expectations. The first thing is conditional love. So anyone that pretty much threatens their affection, approval, support, unless you got to do what I tell you to do, or I'm going to withhold something from you. That's considered conditional love. Then there's enmeshment. There's family members or friends that might feel like there are no boundaries. Like, you got to sacrifice everything, sacrifice your identity, your career, and your personal goals for me, for our family, because blood thicker than water. You're supposed to put everything second to family. That's called enmeshment. Usually there are no boundaries there. Those expectations are not healthy and are considered toxic. Emotional caretaking, the third one. This is when you have a family member that they're emotionally in distress. And it's like, how could you treat me this way? How could you do this to me? Jesus even experienced this. I ain't trying to put Mary on blast, but there were moments in the Bible where we see some emotional caretaking. Perfectionism. If anyone expects you to be perfect, leaving you to feel unappreciated, criticized, they have these unrealistic standards of perfection. And I'm sure that was hard for Jesus because, yeah, he was perfect. And then guilt tripping. using emotional pressure, or phrases like, after all I've done for you, really? This is how you treat me? All of these years you've been knowing me? These are things that really are warning signs for toxic behaviors. And just like I said, Jesus experienced a couple of things on this list. So this blood is thicker than water, kind of like, hey, your mama them out here, right? So that, again, that's kind of that emotional caretaking. Like, okay, he's supposed to stop what he's doing to make sure that they're okay, right? At 12 years old, Jesus, they went to Jerusalem for a feast. And pretty much they left. Mary and Joseph left with the family. They realized a day into the trip, oh Lord, we done left Jesus. We don't know where he is. They go back. They spend 3 days looking for Jesus. And this is what happened in Luke 2nd chapter 41st to the 52nd verse. Son, why have you treated us this way? Look, your father and I have been searching for you in great distress. This is a form of emotional care. Like, why have you done this to us, Jesus? Well, Mary could have just said, Jesus, we were concerned. We were frightened. We didn't know where you were. We're glad that you're safe. But yeah, everybody was worried about you. So own your emotion, but don't put it on Jesus by saying, why have you done this to us? That's a form of expecting Jesus to to be responsible for your emotional response. We call that emotional caretaking. That is an unhealthy thing. And we sometimes see that in education where teachers will say, go ahead and make me happy by putting your chair away. Or go ahead, it'll make me so happy if you guys will clean up your area. No, you're creating people pleasers. Those are unhealthy. You should say, hey, thank you for being a leader and cleaning up your area. Thank you for being a contributing member to our classroom community by cleaning up and being responsible. So not making it about your emotions and you needing to be cared for. And then last one, for Jesus' wedding at Cana, when another interaction with his mother, where she says, hey, the wine was all gone at this wedding. There was no more wine. Jesus said to her, she says, they have no more wine. This is what Mary said, his mother. And Jesus said, dear woman, what is that to do with me? My time to act and to be revealed has not yet come. Like letting her know my purpose. And yeah, this is not my time yet. This is not my coming out party. And his mother, she immediately after that said to the servants, whatever he says to you, do it. Now, he could have not said anything. I'm like, I ain't doing nothing. But in that moment, he did intercede. She had faith and he obliged. Okay. But there was a nudge there. Okay. So in that moment, Jesus was like, okay, she had that and he obliged her. Jesus cared about people and their needs. She demonstrated faith and there was a level of partnership there and supporting what needed to happen. But again, that wasn't initially supposed to be his coming out party. So when we think about toxic expectations, we want to make sure that we're considering these things, that nothing we go through, Jesus hadn't experienced on earth when it comes to toxic expectations. So, Ms. Shonda, you mentioned there's some work expectations for you, and then there's some things at home that may be unhealthy, but no one will know if you don't reveal it. If you don't reveal it. All right. So I have some examples of toxic expectations, right? But does anyone else have any toxic expectations or things after kind of what we talked about that you've noticed or?
If I could, similar to what Sonda's describing at the home situation, I've shared with you before with my daughter and my youngest grandson, there was an expectation I'd be there all the time, ready to go, be there, do whatever they needed. And I do the line, I do the line, I told them no, and I got backlash. So what I'm saying is, yeah, you gotta draw your line, have your boundaries, protect yourself and your own emotion, so that you gotta be healthy too. But it may not all come out roses, right? There's a process. They had to. It's getting better, right? They're learning to respect my boundary. It's taken a year, actually probably longer than a year now. I am seeing my grandson, because they withheld me even seeing him, right? And they withheld calling me. They withheld talking to me. So that was their reaction to my trying to establish a proper boundary that they're going to have my whole life to their beck and call. Right? So that's just what I want to put out there, that Might not happen every time, right? But
Hmm.
can happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Consequences. Yeah. And that's the thing. Some people will respond when you set a boundary, and sometimes they will respond, and usually, yeah, you really don't know what the outcome is going to be, but a reaction is normal. A react because it's almost like, especially if they're used to you saying yes. So sometimes the reaction is different. Go ahead, Miss Chan.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say is that last week, when you talked about boundaries, it made
Hmm.
me really think about the slide where you had access, responsibility, and consequence. And
Hmm.
one thing that it really made me think about is, man, I think I'm good at taking away access or that level of responsibility. But when it
Hmm.
gets to the consequence, I don't do a good job of having a consequence there. I'll just take away access to me. I'll take away their responsibility of whatever they had, but then
Hmm.
there's not ever a consequence for what they did. So then to
Got
them,
it.
it feels like I'm just, taking away these things, and that can feel like a consequence. But for me, I'm still experiencing like nothing has changed. And last week, you really made me think about that with that chart. That man, the access and responsibility is there, but the consequence isn't. So to them, it can feel like, okay, I may have lost access and the responsibility, but to them, the consequence, like it's not there. So then it continues to keep happening, if that makes sense. So the
Hmm.
slide that you had last week really made me think about, man, I really need to do a better job of having consequences set up and also knowing what that looks like for me. If you do
Hmm.
this to me, what is a consequence for doing that? And I don't think I've had that time to think about it for myself. But
Hmm.
the more that I continue to have things occur, the more I realize that, man, I need to have consequences in place or I'm going to keep dealing with these problems, if that makes sense.
No, I love that you mentioned that. And Gwen, I'm going to come to you. I did put the slide up, guys, that Miss Charm is referencing from last time. I did add a little bit something different. It's important to map your process, and we can sit down on the calendar and put you on the books for us to really map out your process. For example, access means how much time are you giving people? How much space are you giving them? How much information are you giving them? How many resources are you offering or providing? How much advice? The bottom line is time. If we just use time, right? Some of us give people our telephone time, in-person time, virtual time, whatever, right? And so if they're not respecting your time, then the consequence needs to be in alignment with time, right? If they're abusing your resources, then the consequence needs to be, okay, I can't, this person has shown me that they can't be responsible with my resources in the way that, supports me. So the consequences have to be in alignment with the violation. If they're violating your time, there has to be a list of time consequences. And baby, I can help you come up with a list of consequences. Go ahead, Gwen.
Yeah, I was thinking that when she was talking, that definitely probably sitting with someone to walk you through steps of what consequences should look like, because sometimes we don't know. And if we're new to the unfortunate thing is we struggle, and I can speak for myself, I struggle and lack how to do relationships because nobody taught me how to do relationships with men. You just do what you see and what you think in the auntie conversations. But I just want to back up when I heard, I think it was Miss Teresa, or maybe it was both Miss Shonda, just knowing that when you change something that you used to do,
Mm,
you should expect them to be upset.
Mm-hmm.
If we're getting something good and you taking it away, if you
that's
give a
true.
baby a bottle and you trying to wean them off of it, they're gonna be upset. That was a good thing. So you should kind of prepare yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
then again, working with Charmaine, some consequences of this is how you would treat me, this if you want access to me. And unfortunately, a lot of times it is people that's close to us.
Hmm.
You just got to, you're open, but if you want to speak to me, if you want to be around me, this is what I expect. And you keep reminding them, you have to be consistent.
Hmm. And I was gonna say, Gwen being an educator, running schools for years, the biggest challenge with sometimes the new teachers is right. They don't. It's hard for them to manage their classrooms because what they'll say something, but they have no consequence ready. And if you're not in alignment with what you say, what you expect, and then what you are going to actively manage in consequence, then you have taught people not to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we think, well, they're not listening to me. No, you've taught them not to believe you. Every time you say, I don't want this to happen, or this is what I expect, they don't do it. You've taught them that you don't mean it. And it's dangerous because it's a form of self-sabotage. And then we'll blame them and say, well, they just don't respect me. No, you sabotage by training them not to believe you. And I'm guilty as well. I struggle with this. I know some of y'all will be like, I don't believe it. But I struggle with being consistent as well. So some things I do want to offer us about toxic expectation. These are a list of a couple of things. So first of all, just making sure, Ms. Charm, your question was answered that, yeah, outline the areas of the violations or what you deem to be like when it comes to a boundary, that's what's being violated. Is it how they communicate with you? Is it your time? Is it your resources? What's the exact violation? And the consequences have to be in alignment with that. For some people, they value time more than anything. Some people, they value access to you. So time can be, they're used to calling you and you answering the phone. You may not need to answer your phone. They might be used to texting you and you responding back in an hour. Okay, maybe you need to start putting yourself on 24-hour holds when there's a violation. Maybe they're used to you pretending like nothing happened after they just cussed you out, and the next day you pretend like it never happened. No, maybe you need to have an expectation that they must acknowledge and apologize. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes the consequences don't have to be these major things, but it has to, and you don't budge until, again, they realize that, no, there was a violation, so I don't really have any, there's no interaction with them. Jesus didn't justify certain people even with his voice at times. Like, he didn't even dignify certain things with a conversation once he said what he said. And so toxic expectations, these are some other things that can come off as toxic. Expecting someone to read your mind instead of communicating your needs. How many times do we do that? We don't want to have to say the hard thing. That, hey, I might be sitting here in my room and I might look like I'm doing nothing, but I am having a date with myself right now. I'm watching TV. I am not available to watch any children. This is my date with myself. It's a real thing, hunty. It's called self-care, okay? I done serve people for 80 hours a week on this job. I ain't serving no more today but myself. This is my date with myself. So they ain't not going to read your mind, expecting perfection instead of growth. Anybody who expects perfection from you instead of growth, you're going to make mistakes. Living things grow. So that is a toxic expectation. And sometimes people will mask this with, oh, I admire you so much. You're so perfect. You're so good at this. Don't get caught up in that emotional manipulation. Well, you're better than this than me. Believing that love should eliminate conflict. But I love you though. Why are you so upset with me? Like somehow love is going to just water down any conflict that we have. No, I'm upset with you right now. Yeah, I love you, but I don't like you right now because you keep doing something I asked you not to do. You can love somebody and not like them.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone saying that, oh, well, love, it covers a multitude. It does, but you need to apologize to me because that's a requirement if you want to recover from this. I need you to acknowledge it, own it, and stop doing it. All right. And I love that Miss Shonda says emotional manipulation. Wow. Absolutely. All right. Some other things that are toxic, just to make sure, in case we don't know, expecting healing without accountability or effort. Well, I really want us to heal. Can't we just heal from this? Can we forgive and just move past it? But they don't want to be accountable. No, you need to say what you did, because if you don't acknowledge your offense, you're going to repeat it. So the person that want to scave, they want to just hurry up and heal without them taking accountability or with them putting any effort to change, to do something different. That's a toxic expectation. Expecting a partner to make you whole, happy, and emotionally complete. If we're asking our Heavenly Father, well, I can't wait for my partner to come because I'm a half a person, they're going to be a half person, we're going to make a whole person. And no, you are a whole. You need to be whole, right? God doesn't want to give you his son or his daughter for you to abuse them because you're not healthy, right? So we need to be whole. We need to be healthy. We need to know how to be happy apart from another person, or we will become emotionally codependent and start to become emotionally abusive to other people by making it their fault if we're not happy, their fault if, I'm stressed out, and they will become our addiction because you're supposed to soothe my stress. Another toxic expectation, assuming if they love me, they should already know. This is like mind reading, assuming like, why don't they already know this? They should know how to, how to rub my feet, how they should know. My friends should know what I want for my birthday. They should know. You should just know me good enough to do that. Confusing control with care. expecting immediate change without patience or process, demanding support while resisting reciprocity. You want people to support you, but maybe you are constantly absent when someone else, the few times some people ask you for support. So maybe now the relationship is one-sided. That becomes a toxic expectation. Notice it says demanding support. Okay. And then this is some of the last few that toxic expectations, expecting someone to tolerate disrespect because they love you. Mm-mm. Expecting disagreements to be destructive, except the free will. So pretty much every time you disagree with someone, you expect it's catastrophic. Like instead of accepting that, no, they have free will. We can agree to disagree, and it doesn't have to be explosive. But if you think that everyone's supposed to agree with you, and then that means you're having a communication based on persuasion. And then expecting you from other people. My friend gave me this one, expecting you from other people, meaning expecting people to be just like you. That can be a toxic expectation because they're going to disappoint you. You're the only original copy of you. And then lastly, expecting more from others than yourself. For some people, that equals hypocrisy or selfishness. And again, sometimes people will say that, well, you're just better than me, than I am in this area. And I expect higher from you than me because you're just better at this than me. Sometimes people can mask that as admiration when really, no, you expect me to do more than you. And Miss Shauna, this may be what you are experiencing at work. You have normalized your above and beyond. So it's no longer above and beyond. It's an expectation now. It has become extra bullet points on your resume that they expect. And so you're doing, like, you're pumping out 150% work in a week. Another person is only producing 40% of your work portion size. And now this has become normalized for you. And you can't go back to balancing it out, right? And yeah, that is something that specifically, there's specifically women of color, a lot of the mental health issues that they suffer is overworking. And sometimes it's rooted in us wanting to feel like you're secure at work. It can be a way of masking our insecurity and to want work stability. So we have to be careful of that. And a lot of mental health challenges with specifically women of color are connected to overworking and trying to prove themselves at work. And Miss Teresa, you're experiencing that because you're a minority within the IT world. So as a woman, you pushing yourself again as your gender now is showing. You're trying to prove yourself, and you're in that same boat. But for you, you as a woman in a male dominated field. And so these are just two sweet tea tips I want to leave you guys with about family. Family doesn't mean keeping secrets, walking on eggshells, lying about who I am to keep peace, pretending others are healthy when they're not, tiptoeing around the truth, attending holidays that derail my healing process, defending poor choices, engaging in toxic behavior, remaining loyal to old patterns that no longer align with my growth, assuming care, taking responsibilities that are not mine to carry. And lastly, with the sweet tea tip, emotional blackmail. I want to make sure you guys know what this is. Emotional blackmail is a form of psychological manipulation, and it happens as a form of fog, FOG. The F means fear, the O means obligation, and the G means guilt. It is when a person exudes control, they try to control your behavior and force compliance. And the way they do it is the way that you find yourself sucked into fog is when you are scared that their reaction, anger, or retaliation, or that they might harm themselves if you leave. So if you feel like leaving that job, there's going to be an angry outburst, there's some retaliation, they're going to sabotage your next professional move, then that's fear. If in the work field you feel obligated, I feel obligated to take verbal abuse, or I feel obligated to do 10 times more work than my coworkers because my boss says that they only can count on me to do it. You often feel like you owe them, or I gave you that bonus. Didn't I promote you? So you feel like you can't say no. Then that's how you know you're in fog. And then G is guilt. You feel that you are selfish or disloyal or a bad person. Your I am is attacked. I am a bad person for asserting my boundaries? No. That's how you know. If you're in fog, there might be some emotional blackmail. And the way to do that is going back to healthy boundaries. We have to audit our time, our space, everything that we give others access to. We have to audit that. Are they responsible enough with it? Is your job responsible with your time? Are they paying you for your time, right? So sometimes we have to realign some things. Family members, right? And then we ask ourselves, are they ready to really have the type of access to us that we give? Because sometimes they ain't even asked for the access. We just gave it to them. We gave them all, we gave them everything. And now they having a temper tantrum because they don't want us to take it back. All right, I'm a policy. So that's pretty much the end of our toxic expectations. Any thoughts, comments? You guys know you can always reach out just for any support on your boundary work. Any thoughts or concerns about these toxic expectations? Okay. Well, one thing it has done, it's helped me to audit my own expectations for other people to make sure that full alignment with how I want people to handle me, and make sure we're seeing the whole person, right? We're seeing the person, right? I empathize with Mary, mother of Jesus, when she was scared because she lost her child. I empathize with her. I think I've been there, that parent that, like, oh Lord, I left my child at the child care facility because I thought my partner was picking him up. I've been that parent that, like, oh my gosh. But at the same time, we have to be mindful that we're not transferring our emotional distress and putting that on other people, putting our responsibilities on other people, and that our expectations are unrealistic. Jesus was a child, so he wasn't responsible for himself. Mary and Joseph were responsible for him, and he was not responsible for their distress, right? Even though they had distress. And so we have to be mindful of the emotional weight we're placing on others.